Impact was a bad show with a good main event. It started with Dixie Carter walking around backstage with Pacman Jones.
Where's my report?
Who should they run into but Mr. Anderson? He demanded a match with Bully Ray. I believe Dixie said, "We'll talk." And then she introduced Ken to Pac. What she called him. And Pac and Ken shook hands. All I can say is this was surreal.
So surreal that you don't know what Dixie said. She agreed to the match.
All right.
She said you can have the match, just, in fact, I've got her exact.
I did write that down. Dixie agreed.
Yeah, Dixie agreed. She said that it's okay as long as you bring it. So that's what he had to do.
Main Event Mafia were in the ring for a promo. Sting explained that they had formed a group to take the belt away from Bully Ray and to run the Aces and Eights out of the company. And as far as they were concerned, they had accomplished these goals.
Well,
so just keep all this in mind. So they were done. They were going their separate ways. He congratulated Magnus for winning the gauntlet. He said, at some point, all three of you are going to go on to be world champions. This is just the most polite, reasonable way I have ever seen a wrestling stable split up. We've succeeded in our mission. Now we're moving on to different goals. Now, Sting reminded us all that he was banned from world title contention. So he is waging a war on entitlement and young people who wanted something for nothing. He sounded 70 years old.
I had no idea what the hell he was even talking about.
As he was speaking, Joe was in the background rubbing his eyes, looking just bored out of his skull. And so Sting hugged his friends goodbye, and then he left. So Joe said, look, we've all been good friends, but will we be better enemies? And then he left. And so Magnus said Angle was the best of all time, but he was going to go through Joe, and then he would go through Kurt, and he'd go through anyone else he had to get the championship. And then he left.
Nobody cared about poor Magnus. Just a dead crowd.
So Angle is left alone in the ring now. All his friends have left him. Two of them have threatened him.
Hell of a mafia, by the way.
He says,
I liked how Sting said when I formed the mafia, it was because we wanted to take the title off Bully and we wanted to keep Aces and Eights at bay. And I was like, actually, no. It was because you got your ass handed to you, and not a single person came out to save you. And so your conclusion was to get some friends to back you up.
That's
who, by
true.
the way, did not come out to save you.
That's true. That is true. So Angle said last week the doctors had ordered him not to wrestle, or advised him not to wrestle. He had wrestled anyway. He had gotten knocked out again. Then Bobby Roode interrupted. He told Kurt to stop making excuses, accept the fact that I beat you. I beat you twice, in fact. And if we meet in the tournament, I'm going to beat you again.
What a rinky-dink company, by the way. I was not medically cleared to wrestle, but I did anyway.
And they got hurt.
And then I got hurt. Good thing you got those, anyway.
So Kurt said he expected to meet Roode in the finals. We didn't want to wait that long. They started fighting. They went to break. Fine. They come back from break. Angle is still in the ring. He calls Roode out, and they started brawling again. Mm-hmm. And they brawled.
Keep in mind, Geeks broke it up.
They did a
before commercial.
Yes.
And then when they came back from commercial, Angle was just in the ring, and Roode just ran back out.
Yes.
So apparently the Geeks just felt, we broke it up. They won't fight anymore.
Yeah. They did a pull apart, and they got back together. They did another pull apart, they went back together. All I have to say about this, besides how long it went, is on any other show, Al Snow's seafoam teal and black tennis shoes would have been the worst thing I've ever seen. But on this show, Simon Diamond was in the ring with chartreuse tennis shoes.
Green, everybody.
Lime green. If you look at chartreuse, that's what this looked like. They were glowing.
Who the hell knows what chartreuse even is for a color?
It's there. Some people know. If you had turned off your television set, these shoes would have been so bright they'd been burned into the screen.
Neon green. How about that?
Yeah. So this went on for way too long.
Literally about 5-minute brawl.
And finally ended. And then nothing can ever end in this company. Suddenly, Bad Influence is getting in the face of Pacman and his friend.
Because they were among the people trying to break up this fight.
Were they?
Yes. Because the geeks weren't enough, so eventually more wrestlers had to come out to try and break it
professional
up.
athletes.
Yes.
Well, I guess that makes sense. So, there was Pacman Jones and a guy from the Bengals practice squad. I didn't even bother writing down his name. I had to look him up. Once I realized he was just a practice squad guy, I didn't bother. So,
Snob.
Yeah. So there's 1,500 guys in the NFL. I can't be expected to know all of them. So, bad influence shoved these football players. They then tried to run away, but they didn't run fast enough, which I guess makes sense because football players are fast. They got in the ring. The football players jumped in, and bad influence hooked them for what appeared to be suplexes. And then the next thing you know, the football players hit them with the scariest, most out-of-control body slams I ever saw. Everyone lived. Bad influence finally ran away. The Bengals partied. Crowd liked seeing their hometown guys, and that was that.
This was the most physical
anything
that Pacman did in his entire TNA career. And keep in mind, he was a world tag team champion.
Yes.
He actually touched someone, lifted him up, and slammed them.
Yeah.
I don't even think he was allowed to do that. I know he couldn't be touched. Maybe he could touch someone, but he couldn't be touched.
I believe if you went back and checked, he never made contact with anybody.
I'd have to go back. Because I think he made a cover to win the tag titles, but I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and check. It doesn't matter.
Possible. That is possible.
But I will say, because I'm a fair man, the idea that they brought back Pacman Jones was pretty infuriating. And I never would have brought Pacman Jones back to TNA. And I'm not happy that they did. But with that said, as a fair man, this segment was fine. And it worked, and the place went nuts when they slammed the heels.
Mm-hmm.
So, there you go. Get somebody who has not had a criminal record and had to pay out tens of millions of dollars to victims next time.
Yeah.
Please.
Mr. Anderson met with Knox and Garrett. He tried to convince them to leave the Aces and Eights. Leave the club that has grown so weak that their primary opposition has declared victory and split up.
Mm-hmm.
We finally had a wrestling match on the show. It was Velvet Sky versus Brooke versus ODB. Basically, they alternated between breast and ass-related comedy, and then they do stretches of lousy pro wrestling. So basically, what we had here was Glow. Gail Kim and Lady Tapa came out to watch. ODB and Velvet put on a horrible double crab.
Did you mention this was a number one contenders match?
No, I did not.
It was a number one contenders match, everybody. Remember that.
And a three-way.
Mm-hmm.
So ODB and Velvet took turns chopping each other in the implants. Somebody on Twitter addressed to both of us that Velvet's chops were horrible. I'm just wondering if it actually would be hurt to get chopped in the implants. Wouldn't that be like armor?
No.
All right.
Not in 2013.
They brawled on the floor. They're out there doing spots on the floor, and Velvet takes over, and she throws Brooke into the ring. I think, okay, now she's going to make a cover on Brooke. And then she throws ODB into the ring as well. Why would you do that? You're just putting someone in there to interfere and break up your pin. So they wrestled and they wrestled. And then the next thing you know, Gail and Lady Tapa are just standing on the apron.
Mm-hmm.
Just hanging out.
Yep.
Shooting the breeze. A minute goes by. Match is continuing with these two women on the apron. And eventually they just attack for the DQ.
They were on the apron for a full minute and they were like, all right, now we'll get in the ring and attack them.
Mm-hmm.
Which they did.
Mm-hmm.
For, in a three-way, a disqualification.
Which we have been told many times. There are no DQs in three ways.
Well, apparently there are in TNA.
I guess so.
It gets better. Gail cuts a promo, and she said that she had beaten everybody, and she was issuing an open challenge to anybody outside of TNA for a championship match. Meaning, in this number one contenders match with three girls, all Gail had to do was interfere, and apparently none of them get a title shot. That doesn't make any sense. We'll see what happens. Speaking of not making any sense. Actually, this did make sense, but...
Kind of, I guess.
An AJ video aired, everybody. I got to talk about this for a second. An AJ video, which we almost flipped over, by the way. But I just saw a clip of AJ in Mexico, and I was like, whoa, hold on a second. And I rewound, and it was a video that was brought to you by friends of AJ Styles. That's what it said. Brought to you by friends of AJ Styles. It was maybe 30 seconds long, maybe 60 at the absolute most. It was a flash in time. AJ Styles went to Mexico, everybody. They flew AJ Styles internationally to work on a AAA show against El Macias in a TNA World Heavyweight Championship match, sanctioned by Alan Jones Styles, apparently. They showed, I believe, one single solitary move from that entire match. And then it was over.
Yeah.
And I was part of me was just like, you know what? The idea that friends of AJ Styles got this on Impact is like, it's goofy. But you know what? Hey, you had an explanation for how this got on television.
It was a paid ad.
Thumbs up. Okay? You found a way to get it on television, and Dixie later is flipping out about it. She doesn't care how this advertising stuff works. She does not want this crap on her show. So great. That made sense in storyline. Thumbs up. With that said, and I even hate to do this because I just praised at least the basic idea of it, but if you're going to do it, maybe we should show a little more of him going around the world defending this title. There was like a sunset flip. That was all we saw from the entire thing in Mexico. I was disappointed.
I like the idea that it's friends of AJ.
Yeah, who are these people?
I like to think it's the people from his cul-de-sac in Georgia.
I like to think it's the same person that paid for the Big Show to fly from city to city and then bought him a semi-truck.
Yeah.
Maybe it is Vince. What a swerve that would be.
Yes, it would. Bully Ray confronted Garrett and Knox about their meeting with Anderson. So angry looking back at this in hindsight.
Come on, Vinny. It's just a faction.
The Aces and Eights have been on, I was gonna say life support, but really it's death support at this point. They have been hanging by a thread for months now, and it's time to pull the plug on this thing. They are so useless, I'm going to repeat it. Their main opposition has declared victory and gone their separate ways.
Mm-hmm.
And the Aces and Eights did nothing, by the way, to dispute this.
Well, the Aces and Eights never asked for this war with the Mafia. They were there before the Mafia. Just because the Mafia is done with them doesn't mean they're disbanding.
So...
Have you ever been in a club? I mean, come on.
No. And after watching this...
The Boy Scouts don't disband when they build cities.
Want to be.
It is a shitty club, let's not lie.
It's a horrendous club.
Taz has admitted it on television.
This club sucks, is were Taz's exact words. So, Ray was trying to say it was all about them, and they said, bullshit, this is all about you, we're going to have a vote. And they didn't say what they were voting on, but goddammit, they were going to have a vote. Dixie was screaming at somebody on the phone about how this guy was humiliating her. This guy was humiliating her. She ordered them to fix it. This is done with the typical TNA backstage camera where it's kind of the unseen footage that after years and years of it, no one ever bothers to look around and see if there's a camera shooting them before they go into their private speech. And Ethan Carter showed up and virtually had to shove the cameraman out of his way to get through the door into Dixie's office and still failed to recognize him.
Yeah.
Or acknowledge him in any way.
Well, he doesn't acknowledge these geeks.
So Dixie offered Ethan a chance to pick his own opponent. He was worried his winning streak might come to an end. She gave him a pep talk. Garrett and Knox were in the ring getting booed. Garrett said they were there to have a club vote to decide the future of this club.
That was Knox. Yes.
He called Taz and Bully into the ring. They jibber-jabbered for a while. Mr. Anderson came out in the heaviest coat I think I've ever seen a pro wrestler wear. Perhaps it was 40 degrees in this building.
He looked like a military commander from the Civil War.
I was going to say he looked like it did look like an army surplus coat. But it looked like he was ready for some duck hunting or something. He just said he was there to watch them implode. So Garrett said they were having a vote, and his vote was, I'm finished. He took off his vest.
His vote.
His vote was, I'm finished.
Hell of a vote.
That's not really a vote. That's just you quitting. So Ray sucked up to Knox for a while, and Knox said he didn't need Ray. He didn't need this gang. He took his vest off, too.
That was his vote.
His vote.
His vote was to also quit.
So Ray said that Taz was going to vote with him. That would make it a tie. And tie goes to the president, and so they would remain a club.
He was going to vote. He was going to vote for them to unquit.
Yes.
And they would be forced
They would
as
have
club
no
members.
option.
They would be disallowed from quitting.
They could be forced to still be in his gang and do what he says, I guess.
It's so stupid, but in hindsight, when you look at what ended up happening, who cares?
I guess.
They were all in on it.
Well, no, because well, we'll get to it. So Ray said Taz was his best friend. He was going to vote the right way. Taz cut one of the great promos in Aces and Eights history, whatever that's worth.
You know, the other great one was the one he cut when he joined.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Yeah, Taz is the man when they let him be Taz. So he said this has always been about Ray. These other guys are right, and I'm done too. And he hands his vest to Ray. And Ray looks at him. He orders him to put it back on. And at this point, Taz, who is older and fatter and more broken than he used to be, but god damn it, he was ECW Taz again. He just said, make me. And Garrett and Knox just left. They knew something bad was about to go down.
After Knox screamed, suplex him!
No, I think it was Anderson.
Oh, was it?
I'm not sure. Somebody was screaming suplex him.
Yeah.
And Taz, to be fair, Taz was awesome here. And Ray decided to blame this on Anderson. And Anderson and Ray jibber-jabbered for a while.
November 21st, Turning Point, free on television.
November or December?
November.
Oh, it's a regular Impact anyway.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, I don't think they have any pay-per-views scheduled except for the taped ones.
Yeah. So, Anderson announced that it had been signed himself versus Billy Ray in a no DQ match for, I wrote December, but whatever. So then Ray said that Mr. Anderson had a lot of respect for Stone Cold Steve Austin. Oh, the cheers this got. Biggest star in TNA and never been on the show. Then Anderson said he forgot. Ray said that Anderson had forgotten Steve Austin's first rule. And then Knox and Garrett appeared, and they jumped Anderson from behind, and they all beat him up. And the first rule, everyone, is don't trust anybody. So yes, the Aces and Eights still exist.
I gotta say, in all fairness, because I am a fair man, this was one of the best swerves in TNA history. Because I fell for it hook, line, and sinker. And I think part of it was kind of clever how they set it up, because they wrote off the Main Event Mafia earlier in the show. And then they've been teasing this breakup of the Mafia for so long, not to mention the fact that Taz has publicly talked about how much the club sucks and there's no one left. Not to mention the fact that in real life, Eric Bischoff is gone, and surely this Aces and Eights was his idea. That I absolutely 100% believed I was watching the end of Aces and Eights. And when they ran down and they attacked Anderson, I was like, God damn, look at that. They got me, and it made sense. They all still hate Mr. Anderson. Now, what doesn't make sense is why these idiots are still in this club. But if we disregard that, this was a great little swerve. Got me. Now, where they go with it, who knows?
Hopefully they just break up next week.
That could happen.
So next thing you know, who was at ringside but Bobby Roode, and he's screaming for Kurt Angle. And then nothing happened with that. It went nowhere.
Aces and fours, by the way, now. Fives. Guess they got Brooke.
Yeah. So he didn't get Angle. Ethan Carter came out and Roode disappeared. So we had Ethan Carter versus Dewey Barnes. I thought to myself, Dewey Barnes again?
Christian Backlund.
And then Mike Tenay asked, Dewey Barnes again?
Yeah.
Now, that said, this time my new favorite spot ever. Dewey Barnes, everyone, is a lousy pro wrestler.
He's going to kill himself.
Bad at his job. He doesn't know. You know when Jerry used to say, how do you teach someone how to fall? Well, you can teach someone how to fall, and someone needs to have that lesson with Dewey Barnes quickly. Because he does not know how to fall and protect himself. So Ethan grabs him and lifts him up for what's going to be what looks like an atomic drop. And Carter's arms and legs are just kind of sticking out. They're not up in the air to make it look good. They're not tucked in to protect himself. They're just out there. And then EC3 just threw him down right onto his face.
Yes.
I roared with laughter. I howled with laughter.
This poor Dewey Barnes.
Best thing I ever saw.
Him and Norv Furnham?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a tag team. We mentioned this last week. Haven't had a match as far as I know, but they're a tag team.
So Barnes got some offense to make it clear that he's going to get hurt very badly if he keeps this up. The dropkick he missed off the middle rope. just he crunched to the mat. It's the only verb I can use. And finally, Carter pinned him with the headlock driver.
You know, when you take a flat back bump, there's kind of like, you slap your hands on the mat, and it's kind of theatric in some ways. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's very theatric. Not when this guy literally just jumps in the air and just crashes.
He jumps up and just goes limp.
Just falls. He just falls down.
Yes.
In hard impact.
He jumps up and submits to gravity.
I can't even call it a bump.
No, but
it is. He has falls. He just falls down all over the place. Poor guy.
So he did, it was not as wacky as the bump he took last time, but he did somehow manage to land on his head for this headlock driver and somersault all the way over Ethan Carter.
It wasn't as good as the first one.
Yeah.
The first one was just the first one can never be topped. But this was impressive attempt.
Yeah. This match was the best thing on the show so far. Think about that.
It was something.
Bad Influence confronted Joe Park backstage. They became, aside from Sting, I think they became the first on-camera TNA characters to suggest that something may be up here with Joe Park and Abyss.
Mm-hmm.
Because they noted that Joe Park and Abyss were never in the same place at the same time.
I love when the heels are smarter than the baby faces.
Yes. So they dumped out Park's Halloween candy, and Eric Young chased them off and challenged them to a tag match. And so we got Bad Influence versus Eric Young and Joseph Park. They had an average tag match. I know we say this all the time, but Eric Young, when he just wrestles, is so good. And then Daniels threw his Appletini in Park's face.
You got to talk about Park's comeback.
All right. Oh, that's right.
So wacky.
Well, he made his Taz described his style as, and I'm quoting here, clumsy. And he's not wrong.
No.
So he got the hot tag, and his offense mostly consists of just running into people.
Mm-hmm.
Running them off the ropes, running into them in the corners. And after running into these guys 3 or 4 times in a row, he just stopped. And he's still the biggest guy in the company. And he just stopped and he thrust his head and his hands skyward and went, yeah! As a lawyer.
Victory. He was winning.
He was winning on them. And then they threw their Appletini in his face and they pinned him, and that was it.
Rolled him up.
Yeah. As I corrected Daniels to Park. Then Angle came out. Yep, haven't seen enough Kurt Angle on the show. Before he could do whatever it was he was going to do, Austin Aries interrupted. He warned Angle basically not to look past him because they had a match next week. And then Dixie appeared on the screen and said, that's right, you have a match. Now let's find out the steps. And she spun the Wheel of Dixie.
I do love the Wheel of Dixie. I'm not going to lie.
It came up.
Never not funny.
Submission match. Just because she's so impressed by it.
Yeah, she's like, I think part of it that's so funny is like, she's supposed to be like a millionaire or a billionaire or something. She's just some crazy rich girl. And she's so goddamn happy to have this spinning wheel.
Yeah. Which
is funny because like, this is a slight segue here, but every summer, the karate jiu-jitsu school goes to all these little events, and we try to get new students and that sort of thing. And my buddy George, who runs a karate school, he has a wheel. And it's not as big as the Wheel of Dixie, but it has like free week, 2 free weeks, free month if you're really lucky. And you have no idea how much business we get at our booth because of that damn wheel. Everybody wants to come up and spin the wheel.
Sure.
So I kind of understand Dixie's infatuation with this wheel. But she loves this wheel. It's not even like the big Wheel of Fortune wheel. It's a little wheel. But God, she loves it. It's great.
So yes, due to the spin of the Wheel of Dixie, it was determined that Austin Aries and Kurt Angle would have a submission match next week. And then Roode came out and attacked. He hit Aries one time. He attacked Angle. Then it turned into a three-way brawl. And that's finally separated.
It's called the Wheel of Dixie.
Yes. Well,
you couldn't even come up with a creative name for it.
It's literally true. It's a wheel. It's Dixie's.
It is the Wheel of Dixie. Couldn't they call it like the Carter Wheel?
That's not nearly as good as Wheel of Dixie.
Like the Carter Wheel?
I see.
I don't know.
Main event was Jeff Hardy versus Chris Sabin in a Full Metal Mayhem match. Full Metal Mayhem is TLC with pinfalls. So they brawled on the floor a little bit, and they would lean ladders against the ropes and take bumps onto them, so they would be in the ropes and they would bend. And as these things go, this is all pretty safe. And then suddenly things went, I guess, south. But Jeff picked up a trash can and just swung it right into Chris Sabin's head. And Sabin made no attempt to get his hands up in the way. Just bashed him. They found some wacky ways to hit each other with chairs. Hardy laid Sabin out on the table on the floor and tried to splash off the top rope, but Sabin moved, and Jeff essentially crashed and burned onto his hip on the floor.
Oh, God, it was horrible.
That looked terrible.
He missed, he overshot the table, and he landed on his hip on the hard floor with such impact that I don't know how this guy got up.
Yeah, don't do this, everyone. So Sabin tried to splash through a table in the ring, but Hardy got the knees up on a table. Table broke anyway. So Hardy set up a ladder in the corner and kind of climbed up it and did a senton over it, if that makes any sense. And on first view, this was actually the scariest thing in the whole match. And later views, it was just a high senton. But yeah, Hardy won and he advances. And
he killed himself.
He killed himself. And it's pretty amazing to cap off a crappy show.
And they had the geeks come in to make sure Sabin was alive and got no updates. I presume he's fine.
And if based on the appearance of these guys as they entered the ring, I think he's much safer on his own than within their care. These guys looked incompetent.
Oh, yeah. So that was Impact, everybody. And yeah, the Wheel of Dixie.
Was that your highlight?
It really, you know what? I think it might have been the highlight of the night for me.
I'm going to go with Ethan Carter throwing Dewey Barnes onto his face.
Actually, I did like the Ace and Eights meeting. I'm going to hell for it, but I liked it. They got me. A swerve that actually made sense.
And fooled you.
They hate Mr. Anderson.
Everyone hates Mr. Anderson.
They came up with a diabolical plan to get him. They got him. And me. So good work.
Impact opened with Bully Ray and the Aces and Eights coming out to cut a promo. They bragged about the swerve they had pulled on Mr. Anderson last week. Now they had fooled the rest of the world. Bully accepted Anderson's challenge to a no DQ match. He vowed to pile drive him not just on the stage, but through the stage. The hell was that?
Can you hear that?
Sounded like, yes.
Wow, I could barely even hear that. Go on, Vinny. Don't worry about sounds here. Don't get distracted.
So Mr. Anderson came out. He said everyone was sick of the Aces and Eights, which is a verifiable fact. He dared Bully Ray to put the future of the club on the line. And Bully said, why should I do that? And Ray said, look, my wife is pregnant at home with twins. If you beat me next week, I will be done with TNA. I will go home forever and just be a dad. But if I beat you, your gang has to go away forever. And Ray said that speaking of your lovely pregnant wife, I would love to pile drive her. This, of course, made Anderson hit the ring, where he was quickly outnumbered, but he fought them all off, and he challenged Knox to a match for right now. And all I can say is they are actually doing Mr. Anderson versus Bully Ray next week with If Anderson wins and the Aces and Eights go away forever, I may lead Chance in your living room. You'll still be in Hawaii. I may lead Chance alone in my living room.
Well, I don't think that Mr. Anderson is leaving TNA forever, and so it looks like it's going to be the end of the Aces and Eights, Vinny.
I will be dancing with my cats. We'll be cheerleading for him.
Well, I'm going to record it, and we're going to put it online then.
We will get this done. We must end this gang. This faction must die. And I've been apparently I'm pretty loud too.
Yes, you'd be shocked at how loud you are, Vinny. He's just going to make you build a tent.
Yes, well, fortunately, I have no neighbors, but Bridget likes the idea of me dancing with the cats.
I see. Well, tell her it's going to be your lucky day next week.
Yes. So Anderson wrestled Knox. Now, I know Anderson's not in the biker gang anymore, but the fact remained that he looked so much cooler in his blue jeans and the T-shirt and the biker vest than he ever did as a wrestler, and just in trunks and knee pads and boots. And he was out here in like jeans and like a long sleeve shirt, and the gimmick was he was not prepared to fight, but he didn't look very good. And Knox was just dressed like Knox. So Knox beat him up forever, and finally Anderson hit the mic check out of nowhere and pinned him. And he vowed to beat Bully next week. Wasn't much of a match, honestly. Joe Park cut a promo to the camera backstage. I guess this is actually from their, whatever they call it, non-stop Impact or 365 or whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
But he said last week Chris Daniels had thrown an Appletini in his face. So he wanted a one-on-one match with Daniels to settle the score. Then Bad Influence tried to explain their side of things. They said that in that match, if you go back and watch, Joe Park was completely blown up. And they were afraid he was going to light on fire. So they used the Appletini to try and save his life and extinguish him. But Park wanted a match. Daniels was cool with it. He told Frankie to stay in the back. And he's going to go beat Joe Park. Then they're going to find Abyss and win the TV title.
Oh, my God. They acknowledged that Abyss was the TV champion?
They did. They did.
Wow.
At this point, Bobby Roode showed up, and they all plugged the T-shirts they have on sale.
How about that?
Had a hype video for the Austin Aries Kurt Angle submission match. Angle talked about great submission wrestlers like Lou Thez and Kenny Shamrock. And it occurred to me...
How about Louis Thez?
Or Lewis. It occurred to me... I think it's actually... It may be more likely that we'll get a Shamrock Angle match. As they both run out of other things to do. Chris Daniels versus Joe Park. Joe Park is doing a great imitation of an indie geek with 1 year of experience. He hit a suplex in this match, a vertical suplex. And like it was such a D+ level suplex. Like you got the guy up, got him over, dropped him safe, but it just looked bad. His feet never left the ground. And I had a sudden flashback of you and me in that Tacoma warehouse in the ICW ring when I was first training. And yes, Joe Park's gimmick is that he's as bad as I was when I first started. Even not that bad. I was horrible when I first started, but his gimmick is that he is bad. Also keeping in mind that he outweighs Daniels by at least 100 pounds. That also brought back flashbacks. But Daniels here won. He hit a low blow behind the ref's back for the pin. Yes, a foul. Still there?
I am still here. I'm baffled that it claims that I am on a conference call with me, you, your cell phone, and Granny's cell phone. That is incorrect.
My cell phone is not ringing. I tried the same thing.
Vincent Verhey added Vince Verhey. you added yourself to this call, Vinny, but it didn't work.
That was my attempt.
What is going on here? This is just baffling. I hate technology. It drives me crazy. All right, go on.
Yes, sir.
Oops. Was that you?
You hear those beepings?
Oh, yeah.
That's me, cell phone number.
Stop doing that. People will find out what number you're dialing.
Well, all right.
Yes, don't do that. I don't need people pranking. Uh-oh. Something happened. Something happened on my deal here. It just made a held remotely. Are you there? Vinny.
Bryan,
There you go.
that failed.
You
That was a
you put
I
yourself
you
on hold. Yes, I
Yes.
had a Rorschach ink blot appear on my phone. What is happening on this program?
Greatness. Greatness is happening on this program.
I don't know why it says I'm on a conference call and you're the only one I can hear. What if I push this button? Hello? Oh, no.
I'm here, yeah.
There we go. I put you
Sound
on
weird.
speaker. Now I'm better, right?
Oh, awesome.
Oh, Jesus. Keep going with this Impact report.
Sorry,
this,
what?
this show is worse than Impact. Go ahead.
Oh, no, this show was awesome. Aces and Eights had a pep talk backstage. They convinced Knox that it was okay that he lost. Ray was going to beat Anderson next week. Piledrive him through the stage. He mentioned that again. They agreed they should go to a strip club, but Ray warned them not to tell Brooke.
Because she's such an upstanding... Anyway.
Well, and there's one thing we've learned about Brooke Tessmacher in her time in TNA. She believes in monogamy.
Yes.
Yeah. EC3 versus Dewey Barnes and Norv Furnham.
Oh, wow.
This is the exact same thing we have seen every week from EC3 and these two men. He has a cool entrance. He sold too much for the geeks. He beat them with his move. It was every squash ever. They're counting his wins, by the way, not only on Impact and pay-per-view, but also on house shows. We had another Friends of AJ clip. It was more of the same match he had in AAA. I guess the idea was to make it seem like he's touring down there. Then Dixie threw a tantrum at the guys in the truck asking how they could have let this make the air.
She's very upset.
They showed a clip of Jeff Hardy last week in his match with Chris Sabin, and I think he said he chipped a crown taking the chair in the face. Got some dental damage. That's bad times. Dixie came out for a promo. She ran down AJ for a while, and she moved on to the subject of the World Title Tournament. She said Jeff Hardy, I'm not making this up, she said Jeff Hardy had beaten somebody last week. Which technically is true. And then Angle and Aries were wrestling later on this show, so that leaves 4 other men. And she called out Bobby Roode, James Storm, Samoa Joe, and Magnus. And this was there was no reason for them to be out here other than to promote next week's show.
Mm-hmm.
To me, well, just said, take this microphone and plug your match. So I don't even think Roode said anything. James Storm cut a promo. It was awesome. She, excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. She brought up the 4 men. Then she said earlier in the day she had spun the wheel of Dixie to determine the steps. She said if you wanted to see video of her spinning the wheel of Dixie, you could go look at, quote, our internet.
If you wanted a video of her spinning the wheel of Dixie,
Yes.
man.
Every part of this is funny.
And who wouldn't?
So, so the steps came up. It was Roode and Storm would be a bull rope match. And Joe and Magnus would be falls count anywhere. So Dixie turns to Roode and Storm. She says, this is a bull rope match. I think that favors Bobby Roode. You know why she thought the bull rope match would favor Bobby Roode?
Let me think about this. I have absolutely no idea.
A bull rope match, she said, would favor Bobby Roode because he has beaten Kurt Angle twice in the past month.
I see.
I don't have any idea what that has to do with a rope, a bull, or a bull rope.
By I see, I meant I have absolutely no idea how she came to that conclusion.
It makes no sense. So Storm got a great promo about how he's going to whip Roode's ass next week. I don't think Roode even spoke here. Joe then said this whole thing is a charade. You've all just brought us out here to cover the fact that you made a bad business deal when you failed to sign AJ to a new contract. He was going to win the tournament, win the title, and then his first title defense, it was going to be against AJ, whether that was in TNA or somewhere else in the world. So Dixie started cutting a promo on him. Magnus stepped in to make peace between them and said this is all about competition and the best man is going to win. And then it just kind of ended. And it It appears that Magnus is going to be the next member of Team Dixie.
Man, I can't wait for that. They built this up a long time ago because Dixie used to always talk about what a handsome man this Magnus was.
Oh, there you go. Mr. Anderson brawled with Garrett Bischoff backstage, kicked his ass, and then handcuffed him to a some large metal thing. I don't know why Garrett was still there when his friends went to the strip club and left him behind. Seems unfair. Gail Kim came out with Lady Tapa for a promo. She repeated her challenge to any woman from any other organization and said tonight someone was stepping up. And the challenger from another organization was Hannah Blossom.
Oh my God, Hannah Blossom is back?
Yeah. Pushing the definition of another organization.
Is that Ohio Valley?
Yeah. I guess technically she's not under a TNA contract.
By the way, Vinny, do you hear that noise? Can you hear that loud rumbling? Listen. Do you hear that? I presume that's a no.
Well, I don't hear it in my headphones.
I have gotten so... Everyone is well aware that I was chastised for being too loud when performing this radio show. But last night and this morning and right now, this hotel is so noisy. There were people yelling and screaming last night. I was woke up at about 4 a.m., people yelling and screaming next door. There's a guy outside with what appears to be like I don't know what it is, like a giant leaf blower here on the 4th floor. I don't even want to hear this bullshit anymore. I'm going to start being me here on this program. With that said, go ahead.
Hannah Blossom looked totally fine. There was a spot here where Gail kicked her ass and put her in the ring post figure 4, which is an illegal hold. And theoretically, it's illegal because it's basically using a foreign object, and it's supposed to be a crippling move, and it should end the match, or at least put Hannah in dire straits.
Sure.
So she puts her in the figure 4. She gets back in the ring and she poses a bit. And she looks in the corner where Hannah has gotten back to her feet. At this point, Gail drops to all fours and says, "Come on, give me your best shot." And the best shot ended up being like a running kick, and Gail stepped aside and tripped her like Lucy pulling the football away from Charlie Brown. And Hannah took a big flat back bump, and they kept on wrestling. And then Hannah made her come back. Her leg was totally fine. But this all seemed out of order. And then finally, Gail cut her off and won with defeat and cut a promo about how great she was. Joe Park came out for a promo. He said he had come to Impact in the first place to find his brother Abyss. I'm sad that he did not say Chris, Abyss. He just said Abyss. But once he got there, he started competing, and he couldn't turn down the support he had gotten from the fans all over the world. Bad Influence had said that he would never be never be the wrestler that his brother Abyss was. He agreed with him, because Abyss is an all-time legend. He was sick of the accusations that he knew where Abyss was. This made no sense, because Abyss is crazy, he's nuts, he's bonkers. You never know where he'll turn up. They had a solution. He's going to put a stop to all this. All these accusations. He issued an open challenge next week for Impact, Joe Park versus Abyss.
Oh my God. Didn't they do this once before?
Maybe.
Yeah, remember they had Abyss, and then they had Joe Park in the ring at the same time, and they had some fat guy in an Abyss costume. Remember this? They've done this before. Someone needs to remind Chris Daniels that they have in fact been in the same place at the same time in the past. Maybe they forgot their own storyline. Maybe initially there was going to be a Joe Park and an Abyss, and then later they decided that Joe Park was supposed to be Abyss, and now they're changing their mind again.
Maybe. I remember Joe Park in the ring and Abyss in the big screen. They were cutting promos on each other.
Yes, that happened as well, yes.
Yeah. So Anderson backstage. Time had passed, and in that time, Garrett had apparently fallen asleep. So Anderson unhandcuffed him and lifted him in a fireman's carry and just carted him off. Main event was Aries versus Angle in a submission match. Bobby Roode came out to watch and to distract Angle, and it worked. And Angle was distracted, and he rolled to the floor. And he was pointing at Roode and yelling at him. And Aries tried to take advantage of this distraction by diving off the top rope to the floor. And Kurt turned, caught him, and hit a belly to belly on the floor, and then stood up and started shouting at Roode again. And on the one hand, it made Aries look like a complete goof. On the other hand, it looked so cool. It was so cool. So they had a good match. It probably would have been better with regular near falls and everything. Aries hit the brainbuster into last chance tree, but Angle escaped that. They took turns or teasing and missing finishers. Never hit them. Crowd knew Angle, and they were chanting USA for him, but they didn't know Aries and didn't react to much of anything he did. And then finally, Aries missed a charge, and his shoulder hit the post. And Angle pointed at Roode, and he put Aries in the crossface, which is Bobby Roode's submission, and Aries tapped out. So Roode won using Angle won using Roode's hold.
Oh no!
This made Roode furious. I was like, shouldn't you be happy? Didn't he just show how great your finisher is?
I don't think it quite works like that, Vinny.
It's not.
These are men of pride. They have created their own finishing hold. You can't go in there and just steal it.
Yes, they have created it.
That's like saying, I stole Vinny's car, but he should be happy because it just means I really like his car.
There's a difference, though. At that point, I would have no car. Like saying Angle stole the crossface doesn't mean Roode can't use it.
I see.
You could probably do something with Napster and downloading music here if you really wanted to get into it, but let's just move on. So they were pointing and shouting at each other, and then Anderson dragged Garrett out on stage. Roode just stepped aside, and Angle was still in the ring. And Anderson beat up Garrett a little more, and they showed Roode and Angle just staring at him like they could not believe what a lunatic this madman was. And then Anderson picked up Garrett and he hit a pile driver on the stage, just like Bully Ray had done him. And that is how Impact ended.
So what would you give this show, Vinny? A thumbs up, a thumbs down, a thumbs in the middle?
This was a thumbs in the middle show.
Have you gone online to check out the Wheel of Dixie yet?
I have not checked out the Wheel of Dixie video, no.
What the hell are you waiting for? Come on.
So yes, Hardy and Roode is one semifinal. Angle Magnus is the other. I can only imagine what this thread's going to be like. We then had a segment on Sam Shaw, who won Gut Check seemingly decades ago. So Christy Hemme went to his apartment, which as far as I can tell had one couch and one bed. And he explained that he was in art school. And he showed her some projects that he had been working on, some sketches he'd done. They had the most awkward conversation ever. Direct quote. That's about it. Yep. That's about it. So much like the early days of this program, in fact. And then finally they stopped cameras, only we could still see what was going on. And he asked her to dinner, and she accepted. And I can only assume that at some point, this art student, Sam Shaw, is going to ask Christy to model for him.
Samuel Shaw.
That's right. He wanted to be known as Samuel Shaw.
Came off as a man bereft of charisma.
And furniture.
Sure, yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's a classic...
He's a starving artist.
Bachelor pad.
That too. EC3 met with Nora Furnham and Dewey Barnes. This is awesome. He said that he knew they were looking forward to having one more match against him and finishing off the rivalry, but he said that match would be overkill. So instead, he flew them down here just to tell them that they sucked. He said he was facing
He's a Carter, dude. He's got millions.
That's right.
You don't care. You could probably put two of them in one seat.
I'm not laughing at him because this is stupid. I'm laughing because this is an awesome idea, and I wish I had the money to fly people in and tell them they suck.
Someday, Vinny.
Yes, I can only hope. So he vowed to win his match against the Legend tonight, and the poor Nora Furnham and Dewey Barnes were just left insulted and helpless. And that was it.
You know what's funny is in real life they are flying in Nora Furnham and Dewey Barnes.
Yeah. And then telling them they suck. Boras tried to interview Bully Ray, Knox quickly took over, and then Brooke was asking questions. And Bobby Ray made an astute point here when he said, TNA was the one who turned their backs on you when I welcomed you with open arms. That is true. Anderson is being kind of a dick.
I think they're only flying one of them in because I think one of them actually works there in concessions.
I see.
Yeah.
Angle was in the middle of cutting a promo about what a tough challenge Magnus would be when some geek came up and told him that Dixie needed to see him. EC3 versus a mystery opponent. Carter cut a promo saying it was time to raise his quality of competition. That is true. And he brought out Shark Boy, and he had every EC3 match we've ever seen. He sold too much for the geek. He hit his finish, and he pinned him. And he said he's a Carter, and the world needs him, and that was it. Nothing new. Moving on.
Actually, Sharky took a hell of a bump for that finish.
Angle and Roode were upset to find each other in Dixie's office. They said next week was Thanksgiving, and Impact Wrestling is a Thanksgiving tradition. She ordered them to give her the best main event ever, and she challenged them each to pick a team of 4 men to face each other in an 8-man elimination tag match.
Yes.
So yes, on Thanksgiving, they're doing a Survivor Series match. Well played, TNA. Well played. And the main event was Mr. Anderson versus Bully Ray, with stipulations. If Mr. Anderson lost, he had to retire. And if Bully Ray lost, then Aces and Eights would die. Big chunk of the roster came out to watch the match, including heels like Bad Influence. They all wanted to see the Aces and Eights go away forever. Crowd was into this, even though they especially after the other hardcore match. Compared to that one, this was much tamer. The crowd was into everything they did. Anderson was working Ray over the chain. Yeah, and then Ray hit a rock bottom, of all things. Anderson took a giant bump for that move. That's right, I remember that now. So Knox got involved, and the dozens of men who were out on stage just watched this and didn't try to help Anderson at all. Anderson made his own comeback. He piledrived Knox on the floor and tore off his vest. And Ray then cut Anderson off and speared him through a table. At this point, Taz gave a hammer to Brooke. Brooke tried to throw the hammer to Ray, but she threw it 8 feet over his head and into Mr. Anderson's hands. And Anderson hit Ray with a hammer shot to the head. He had a mic check to win the match and end the Aces and Eights for fucking ever.
Did you jump up and down and do a cartwheel?
I would have liked to. But between the aforementioned trouble I had just getting this download and the fact that by the time this thing ended, it was 2:30 a.m. Saturday night, I did not have the energy to jump up and down and do a cartwheel or dance with my cats or whatever else it was I promised to do.
I
turned off my computer and I went to bed.
I thought this was very well done. It tied the story together. Bully lived by the hammer and he died by the hammer. The place went nuts for it. The thing is dead. All the baby faces came out and made Taz take his jacket off, which Taz didn't want to do. God only knows why. He should have just stood up. Like, do they need Taz as a heel? Shouldn't he just stood up and said, this jacket, and just thrown it on the ground and denounced Aces and Eights forever? Did he really have to not want to take it off? I don't know. But I thought that I thought everybody did a good job. This is the best Anderson of his entire career. Bully Ray is such a smart guy putting a match together, and I thought this whole thing was very well done. And I'm glad the Aces and Eights is dead. I mean, you knew it was going to be dead as soon as Bischoff lost all of his power, and thank God for that. But thumbs up for this show, except for the headshots. Headshots I could have done without, but other than that, very well done.
Yeah, that was Impact.
You sound so excited, Vinny. This was a great show.
This was a great show. Yeah, I had a computer screw up. I'm ready to go. All right, so the show opened with shots in a funeral parlor, and we heard a voiceover by Mr. Anderson saying they would be memorializing the passing of the Aces and Eights. Dixie came out for a promo because, of course, Taz said that he was fine with the Aces and Eights being disbanded because he had outgrown the club. So Dixie said she had hired a new chief of staff. It was Rockstar Spud. Spud came out I've never seen a man so blatantly spray painted orange.
Actually,
Mhm.
Zema Ion later on in this same show,
Maybe.
he was just painted black.
I did say it's painted orange.
He was so dark. And yes, Spud was orange.
So Spud said Dixie was the best boss in the world and she was his queen. He said his eyes would be on the locker room all the time. Ah, Taz said, so he's a stooge.
Yes.
Yes.
In fact, that is his role.
Yes. So Dixie said that in the title tournament, Kurt Angle and Magnus would be a last man standing match, and Bobby Roode and Jeff Hardy would be a tables match.
Because she'd spun the Wheel of Dixie.
Wheel of Dixie, yes. Then, because this was Thanksgiving, the winners on tonight's show would come back at the end for a feast, but the losers would get nothing.
And why?
Why?
Winner, winner, turkey dinner.
That's right, yes.
That's what they do at all of the Carter businesses. They split the employees down the middle, and they have a contest, and the winners get a winner, winner, turkey dinner, and the losers go hungry.
Yeah.
To teach them that winners are rewarded. I've so turned a corner on Dixie as a heel.
Like you say, you're going to steal this plan.
No, well, I may.
Yeah. So the fans were all screaming they wanted AJ. Dixie instead brought out EC3. And Ethan explained that his aunt was letting him fly in his own competition, and he was facing his toughest foe yet tonight. And so we got EC3 versus Curry Man.
Who, in fact, was his toughest foe yet.
Absolutely. Curry Man did his usual promo, which is just he names random Japanese wrestlers. He took, I don't know if I can call it the best backdrop ever, but he managed to take a backdrop where between the time that he left his feet and then the time he landed on his back, he did not bend at the waist or arch his back. His body was a perfectly straight line throughout the move.
It was like EC3 backdrop to tree.
Yes. Yes. So I don't think Curry Man got any offense in this, and then Ethan pinned him with his move.
Yeah, he got some offense.
Okay.
He made a little comeback.
So was every Ethan Carter in the third match you've seen.
There needs to be more Curry Man on this program. He was the best thing on this show.
Well, on that note, I was going to do this at the end, but I'll jump the gun here. Chris Daniels on Twitter tonight. I hope Curry Man stays in TNA for a while. He still owes me money from his last tour of the States. Still haven't seen him backstage. Later, also, as far as I know, folks, Curry Man is not on Twitter. I was under the impression he didn't even have a smartphone at this point. And finally, before tonight, Curry was working at a Kinko's in Morioka. If he stays, maybe he'll join Twitter. Ask TNA Dixie to keep him around this time.
I agree!
Fine work. Fine work.
I'm going to go actually find that and retweet it.
Kurt Angle was backstage talking to Gunstorm. He thanked them for teaming with him tonight. Storm didn't really want to talk to Gunner, but he said he was going to fight side by side with Kurt Angle, and they were going to both get their hands on Bobby Roode. And then Gunner told Storm he had thrown in the towel last week just because he thought that was the best thing to do, and Storm walked out without really replying.
All right, I've retweeted that. Hopefully this will allow the Curry Man to stick around.
The BroMans were backstage along with the newest member of their team, which is in fact Zema Ion.
Mm-hmm.
He's their DJ. Eric Young and ODB walked up, and they said that the BroMans were going to be in the turkey suit tag match tonight.
How do they determine who's going to be in this match?
Apparently, Eric Young is now the
keeper of the suit?
The GM of the turkey division.
Yeah, that's understandable.
And he said their opponents... Was this Fernham and Barnes in this segment?
Yes.
Okay. I got the impression that he grabbed a couple of geeks off the sound crew.
He did.
Okay, and it was them. Okay.
Yes.
I didn't realize who it was.
Dewey Barnes does, in fact, legit work in a concession stand.
Awesome. So, the BroMans realized they'd be wrestling these two skinny geeks tonight. They said, by the time we get done with you, you're going to be dancing like turkeys. Like this. And they began to demonstrate. And for, I don't know, 8 to 10 seconds, we had Robbie E. and Jesse from whatever show he was on, Mr. Spectacular, doing dueling turkey dances. Then Eric Young thought it was fun and joined in. I was laughing till I cried. I believe you were also laughing hysterically. This is the point in the show where the non-wrestling fans who were in the house decided to leave the room and watch something else.
What's wrong with them?
I don't know.
This is amazing.
This was
Jesse's
great.
turkey dance was the greatest thing I've ever seen. At the moment.
For a while. Velvet Sky versus Lady Tapa.
This was legit the only thing on the show that was no good.
The very first spot was they did a lockup, and then Tapa pushed her back into the corner. Watching Velvet stumble into the corner and then try to sell a collision with the turnbuckles. Is she brand new? Has she ever been in a ring before?
God bless this girl. I actually would be more outraged if I had not seen the Survivor Series and Raw Divas matches.
The bar has been dropped.
But she is a horrendous. I'm sure she's a nice girl. Can I preface by saying that? But she is an absolutely horrendous professional wrestler. Now, I will say, it was Velvet Sky versus Lady Tapa. And as bad as this was, I guess it was like the women's match on Raw. It could have been a lot worse.
Sure.
I expected it to be significantly worse than it was. So, as bad as it was,
it wasn't that bad.
It didn't ruin the show.
No, it did not.
It was just a bad women's match.
So Gail got ejected for tripping Velvet, and then even after she got ejected, Tapa by herself destroyed Velvet and pinned her with a TKO.
Mm-hmm.
They teased footage of the Aces and his funeral, and this was the moment where I knew this segment was going to be awesome. Had a highlight reel of guys wearing the turkey suit over the years. Wisely, they did not include AJ Styles.
Mm-hmm.
Well done.
You would think that Dixie would have demanded that they show AJ Styles.
Well, that's true. But it is best for everyone that they did not.
It is definitely best that they did not.
BroMans versus Dewey Barnes and Nora Furnham in a turkey suit match. This was 5 stars. Zema Ion is the DJ / hype man for the BroMans. He's also, by default, their ring announcer. He gave them a brilliant introduction. A fantastic introduction, complete with multiple air horn shots. So the BroMans grabbed mics, and they cut promos in the Geeks and buried them. And every time they told a bad joke, Zema, from his DJ booth on the floor, but over the house mic, would laugh and say, "Good one!" and then blow the air horn. This is the best act of all time. The Geeks attacked them. They were killed. The BroMans won with a heart attack, which I think the announcers called the Bro Down. So Geeks lost. They had to put the turkey suits on.
It was amazing because when you see this match, you presume that the BroMans, they must be losing, of course.
Yes.
But the BroMans, I believe it was which BroMan put the turkey suit on last year? It was
Jesse.
Jesse.
Yeah.
So then it was like, well, they're not going to do it 2 years in a row, right? So they proceeded to just absolutely destroy the baby faces.
Yes.
I mean, they just completely destroyed them, clean as a sheet, in like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as the baby faces were putting their turkey suits on, Jesse was helping them. Robbie was on the mic making crow sounds, I think. Apparently, this is his impression of a turkey. But what he said was, gaga, 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 over and over and over again. Then finally, he commanded them to dance like a turkey, damn it. So the two nerds in their turkey suits began to dance like turkeys.
Uh-huh.
And at first, they were very sheepish and shy. And then slowly it dawned on them that the crazier they danced, the bigger reaction it got. And this made them happy. And so by the end, the two geeks in turkey suits were dancing with their heart out and having a ball. That's how it ended. This was awesome.
I came to the conclusion that these two will now wrestle as turkeys.
Good. I'm fine with that. We had a Friends of AJ promo. I don't think there was anything new to see here. And then Dixie snapped and cut a promo into the camera, saying she had a lot of shoes and even more lawyers.
She said, "There's something you don't know about me. 2 things you don't know about me. I have a lot of shoes," she began. I was like, I could have figured that out. And I could have figured out you got a lot of lawyers, too.
Yeah. So she said her lawyers were going to shut AJ down, get the title back, and she gave AJ 1 week to return the belt because he was on notice. That made me laugh. Bobby Roode had a pep talk with his team in the elimination match tonight, and they started talking about Thanksgiving. And Kazarian noted that a few months back, the entire roster had undergone drug testing, and Joe Parker tested positive for gravy.
Yes.
Angle met with Magnus, thanked him for joining the team tonight. Magnus said that he still respected Kurt, and even though they were going to fight each other in the tournament next week, tonight they would take care of business and make sure Kurt got his hands on Bobby Roode. Then it was time for the funeral.
This.
Brilliance. Perfection. They were in the parlor. They had vests from the Aces and Eights hanging above the casket.
And by they, I'm talking, there were about 6 people there.
There were exactly 6 people there, and one of them was the priest.
Mm-hmm.
There was the priest, Kurt Angle, Magnus, Samoa Joe, Eric Young, and Mike Tenay.
Yeah.
So the priest is eulogizing the gang about how they are no longer with us. And as he is making his speech, Magnus was texting and laughing. Kurt looked right into the camera and smiled. Samoa Joe was eating. And then in the front row, Eric Young was crying. And Mike Tenay asked him why, and Young said he did not know. So the priest asked if anyone had anything nice to say about the departed. And there was a long, awkward pause. And then suddenly the casket opened up. And Mr. Anderson sat up from there and began to give a speech. He noted that the Aces and Eights had taken up years of his life and many, 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 many segments of impact.
Fact.
Certifiable fact. He invited everyone to come up and say their piece. Angle said that he had 2 friends in that gang, D'Lo Brown and Wes Briscoe. He said, you know D'Lo, he's the guy who wiggles his head. And he pulled out a bobblehead, and he rocked that around, and Eric Young did his impression. Then he put the bobblehead in the coffin, and he sat back down. That was his speech. Joe said that the Aces and Eights had once worn masks, but then those masks were removed, revealing that these men were ugly. He had to drink a bunch of beers to look at them, so he's going to bury beer in the casket. Then the last second, he said he was going to not waste the beer. He passed beers out to everyone except Kurt. Kurt did not get a beer. And then Samoa Joe offered the following toast. May you ride your mopeds to the shores of Valhalla. Kurt was weeping at this point. Mike Tenay went to throw things into the casket. He offered first Taz's vest. And then also, although he did not know how they arrived at the announce desk, Brooks' booty shorts. And he threw the vest into the casket and then tried to sneak the booty shorts into his jacket pocket without anyone noticing. He failed, and they cut to camera, they cut to Magnus, who nodded approvingly.
Yes.
Eric Young said he was just there to mourn for the men who would never have a chance to wear the turkey suit. Anderson pulled out Bully Ray's hammer. He listed some of the men who had been, quote, touched by Bully's hammer. And he started to put it in the casket and changed his mind because, as he explained, this is a perfectly good hammer. And finally, Bully Ray arrived. He said Anderson had raped him of everything. He would never forgive Anderson, and he warned him to sleep with one eye open to keep his wife safe. Said this was not the end.
His pregnant wife,
Pregnant wife safe. Said this was not the end. It was the final awakening. And he walked out. This was phenomenal.
It's the best thing they've ever put on Impact.
Amazing TV. Just amazing.
Everybody was so great in their role.
Yeah.
I do like, how did Bully find this place?
I'm sure that
maybe they sent him an invite.
It's possible. All these guys probably left from the Impact Zone. He just followed them.
I wonder if this was like written, like everyone's lines were written out, or if everybody was just given a chance to say something funny.
I would like to think it's the latter.
Yeah. It's very good. This is very, very good.
A perfectly good hammer.
It almost, to me, was almost like a eulogy to Eric Bischoff's TNA writing career as well.
Sure.
Your stupid angle is done, thank God, and now is our chance to bury it. And they did.
And they did.
That was the end of that.
They showed Angle taking part in One Direction's weekend internet event thing. Rockstar Spud was in the kitchen, disapproving of the food. Main event match was the elimination match. Bobby Roode, Bad Influence, and Chris Sabin against Kurt Angle, Gunstorm, and Magnus. They wrestled at a very fast pace for about 3 minutes, and then Storm hit Kazarian with a super kick. But unbeknownst to Storm, Chris Sabin had tagged himself in, and he schoolboyed Storm for the pin. And the key here was that they were not in the heel corner. If anything, they were in the babyface corner. None of the babyfaces lifted a finger to help Storm. And after he was pinned, he just looked at his corner dejectedly.
Well, what happened was, at least the other two guys were too far away. Gunner was right there.
Yeah.
So he was actually mostly pissed off at Gunner. His own partner didn't even try to make the save. He just stood there and looked at him. What's happening over there?
I'm just moving. When I move, it makes noise.
Are you dinosaur?
Essentially, yes. So they wrestled a few minutes more. Gunner got Kaz up in the gun rack, but Bad Influence cut him off, hit him with a high-low double team, and pinned him. So now it's 4-on-2. Magnus, very quickly, hit a clothesline off the apron, but then grabbed his knee. The doctors were looking at him as they went to break. And when they came back, he had been taken away. So Magnus is out due to injury. This left Angle against 4 men. And because it's Kurt Angle, it was awesome. He made a big comeback, threw a million suplexes. I've said this before, but nobody takes a German suplex better than Frankie Kazarian. It's awesome. Big spot.
In fact, I asked Chris Daniels, remember that one show where Angle came in and nearly killed Kazarian with that German?
Okay.
The first time he came back and he went and did the move and dropped him right on his head?
Sure.
Angle made his big comeback, remember? And he picks him up and he threw him, and we jumped out of our seats and thought that Kazarian was dead.
Okay.
Rolled outside, and referee went to check on him and all that.
Yeah.
It's like 4 weeks ago, Vinny. Do I have to find it?
I believe you.
Think.
Okay.
He threw him straight up in the air, and he came right back down on top of his head.
Got it.
I'm going to kick your ass. Point is, Angle's not used to people jumping.
I see. So, he suplexed both members of Bad Influence at the same time, put them both in the ankle lock at the same time. Then Rude tried to get him with a chair, but Angle ducked it, hit him with the angle slam. Crowd was just going nuts for this, chanting Kurt's name, having a ball, and then Kurt just grabbed the chair and started whacking dudes for the DQ. All right, that finish sucked, I won't lie. So Team Rude won. It was a clean sweep. They all survived. They celebrated their victory backstage. Rude told them to get ready for the feast that Dixie had promised them. Gunstorm bitched at each other. They accused each other of being selfish. Had a video profile of the 4 men left in the world title tournament. Dixie was backstage with Rockstar Spud and EC3. They looked over the Thanksgiving spread, and Dixie announced that she and Ethan were headed back to the ranch for the family dinner, and she was leaving Spud in charge. Today is Friday the 29th.
Or 28th? Oh, damn it.
So it's time for the winner turkey dinner. Spud's out there. He's got the table with the whole Thanksgiving spread. So all the winners in the show came out. And if you've been paying attention and taking notes, you realize all the winners on this show were heels. So before they could really begin, Spud was welcoming them all and kind of giving a random introductory promo when Bobby Roode leapt to his feet, cut him off, pointed to Velvet Sky and said, "Chris, what's she doing here? This meal is only for winners." Because you recall, Velvet lost to Lady Tapa. And Chris Sabin stood up and he glared at Roode. He said, "Bobby Roode, you are absolutely right. And he turned to Velvet and said, hit the bricks, toots. And so Velvet was sad, and she left. So all the heels took turns saying what they were thankful for on this holiday. Kazarian, for example, said he was thankful for being so well endowed. Gail was thankful for being the prettiest knockout ever. The BroMans were thankful they did not have to wear turkey suits. Roode was thankful for the real Thanksgiving last month in Canada. It was finally time to start eating. At this point, Angle returned. He came out with all the other baby faces in the show. Needless to say, a food fight broke out. There were chants for TNA. And the big spot at the end was the Gunstorm laid out the BroMans with body slams into the food. And the dudes in turkey suits came off with top rope splashes and killed them. And that was the end to a great episode of Impact.
All right. I have found the Kurt Angle incident in question. And yes, I'm going to make you watch it. And then you're going to go, oh, yeah, that's right. All right, check your PMs here.
I see.
Load that baby up and go to 5 minutes, 24 seconds.
Working on that.
It was during the Ego Hall of Fame.
I don't see any messages from you.
What are you talking about? I just sent it to your... on
the board?
Your IM. Your instant messenger on Apple. My God, everybody. Can you imagine this? Imagine this lack of technological...
Did you text it to me?
Yes.
My phone's downstairs.
But it doesn't show up on your Apple?
No.
You don't have iMessage?
No.
What?
Or if I do, I just never use it.
Turn it on. Your texts go to your computer. You don't even need a phone. That little blue conversation piece down there at the bottom, I just emailed it to you. You need to turn on your messages, dude. Makes your life so much easier. You just type into that thing like a text on your keyboard.
The email showed up. I have Microsoft Messenger of all things.
Are you on an Apple? Are you on a Mac right now?
I'm on a Mac, yeah.
Do you see that little thing, that guitar down at the bottom for...
I see GarageBand.
All right, do you see right next to it where it says Messages?
Next to that is I have iPhoto on one side and System Preferences on the other.
You don't have anything else down there?
No, I don't have anything about iMessage.
Really?
Mine is older than yours.
Go to Launchpad.
I don't know if you have that, honestly.
You don't know if you've got a Launchpad?
I seem to remember having that.
I am baffled.
Desktop screen zero dock.
Okay, let me try one more thing. See up there that Apple up there at the top left?
Yes.
Okay, go down and hit software update. Tell me what it says.
It says, checking for new software.
Okay.
That's going to take a while. About this Mac, will that help?
Yeah, let me see what that says.
Mac OS X version 10.6.8.
10.6?
Yeah.
Oh, man. You need
Trademark 2011.
Oh. All right, when you get home, update it to the current 10.9.
So here's a link you sent me. It's a YouTube.
Yes.
All right, I'm loading this now.
Meanwhile,
it's for my birthday.
Yes! 5 minutes, 24 seconds.
All right. It's 5.
By the way, when Norv
Angle is walking down the ramp,
Furnham and his buddy came out, they, in fact, when they did their big splash, they were wearing the turkey outfit. So I am convinced that they are going to be the flying turkeys.
I was very upset that Kurt Angle has interrupted his Hall of Fame induction.
And who wouldn't be?
And Bad Influence are in their powder blue and orange tuxedos and top hats.
Yeah.
Angle is talking right now. Daniels is trying to make peace. Daniels is attacking. Daniels is suplexed. Belly to belly.
Oh, here we go.
Kazarian swings a cane. Okay, yeah. He got suplexed onto his head.
He nearly killed him.
All right, we're done.
It's actually quite hilarious to watch this without the sound. Because you can see everybody... it's more of a cartoon when there's no sound. Like when you watch, he gets suplexed on his head, and then Bobby Roode starts running in place, and then he turns and leaps out of the ring. But he gets caught because he's not quite fast enough. That was a great segment. That was a great segment. So there you go, everybody. Now you understand the context, Vinny, of why that happened.
Great.
Because most people don't jump And Kazarian decided to jump as hard as he could, and so Kurt threw him as hard as he could. And he flipped and fell on his head. And he was, in fact, fine afterwards. But I don't think he was happy with being dropped right on his head. All right, everybody. Now that that is out of the way,